All right, this is everything gotten from the Villanova Wildcats versus the Lehigh Mountain Hawks on December 6th, 2025. I have a lot of stuff here, some stuff that you couldn't necessarily get as a fan either. I have been working, you know, ESPN games for them during the regular season. Wasn't needed for the playoffs because ESPN brings their own crew for that. Understandable. So that's why I'm making this video. I was there as a fan for once, and now I can show off, the stuff that I've collected over the season. So anyway, I'm gonna start with the stuff that I did get as a fan there, and then we'll move on to the other stuff. So first there was, this table right when you walk in, it had a team photo poster, 2025 Lehigh football. And, that's all it is, just a poster with the team on it, as well as this, kind of like your game notes in a way. Not really, because just one page is very abbreviated. You have all the rosters on here. Very circled football for dummies over here. When Villanova has the ball, when Lehigh has the ball, and then, special teams. And then it was all numerical order on the sides, as you saw. And then, yeah, today's officials, some stats about the series, all the games going on this week, both the team schedules, and then, the leaders. So it's still cool to have. And the other thing at that table, as we dive into our NCAA championship bag, it's the same bag that I've shown off at other NCAA championships, like well, actually, it wasn't even championship. It was the regional for hockey at PPL Center that I've done a few times. A magnet schedule here, which is interesting that they had this, for you to pick up because keep in mind this was December 6th, and this is obviously just the regular season. So it's just a souvenir at this point. And yeah, so now we dig in. We'll go with the NCAA shirt first. There's one NCAA, one Lehigh. It is interesting. Even though all the stuff that I showed, I did get inside the stadium, is free, so I guess they could do it. But from what I heard, the reason why I had to get this shirt that I'm going to show next outside the stadium in a trailer that Lehigh set up is because NCAA, even though they have hosts, still wanted to be neutral for some reason, which I guess, I kind of understand. But at the same time, why do you have hosts if you want to be neutral? But anyway, they're doing it that way. So only they were allowed to sell stuff inside the stadium. But then, like I said, the table where I got this stuff and the poster was inside the stadium as well. So maybe it only applies if you're actually selling stuff. If you're giving it away for free, maybe it doesn't apply. I don't know, but I found that interesting. So anyway, here we go. Division One football championship. As you can see, it is one of the rare long sleeve shirts. And yeah, Division One football championship. And if I can fold this out, 2025 Division One football championship second round. I do like the inclusion of every team in this round, all their logos right here. That's pretty cool. And the logo down there. Yeah, this was the only version. They obviously normally I go with the t-shirts. They did not have a t-shirt of this. They had very limited selection. This was, I'm sure they had a t-shirt of some kind somewhere, but it was all enough to where you could get every design out all in one row out on a table. That's how few designs there were. This was the only kind of this design. And like I said, it's obviously a long sleeve, which I don't mind either, but they did not have a short sleeve version of this design that I like, at least selling at the stadium. Maybe they do online or something, I don't know. Anyway, there's that bag again. In case you didn't see it and you really care that much. Anyway, I'm going to put you down for 1 second. Alright, so this is what I got at the Lehigh store in a trailer outside the stadium because they weren't allowed to sell it inside their own stadium. But as you can see, this is the Patriot League champions. I figured this was a good shirt for me to have, given, like I said, I've worked most of their games this season. So it's cool to see a team that you've pretty much followed all year go undefeated in the regular season and win the league championship. It's always confusing with football. They're technically conferences, but then a few of them call themselves leagues at the same time, but yet it's still a conference, like Patriot League, Ivy League. They're a conference, but they call themselves leagues. So I always go back and forth between what I call them because of that. What else do we have? We have a receipt, which doesn't matter. This was not mine. I bought my ticket online, but I found this underneath, or not underneath. Well, I guess it was. It was kind of underneath the away side stands where I was sitting, and it was on the concourse, so I just picked it up. So I do have a physical ticket on me. Price is $3 more than what I paid because this person bought it at the window, obviously right before the game. And Red Robin on the back. Cool. So I can use someone else's ticket to get 15% off Red Robin. Probably have to travel to Pennsylvania. I'm probably not going to do it out here. So anyway, even though this was in the bag, this is not a part of what I got that day. Here's the segment of stuff that I've accumulated just from working there. And actually, you know what? Let's do this first. Before we get on to that stuff, this pile I have here was from that day's game, but it wouldn't be available to the general fan. This would be stuff in the press box. I actually printed this myself. Is it cheating a little bit? Maybe, but I knew that they always have these in the press box. They always have, piles of each of these Patriot League game notes, I guess you'd call it. And then game notes for each team. That's actually the record book. That was there all year. And then, for, in this case, Villanova. So this would be, if you were media in the press box, you would, be able to easily get these because they're all laid out nicely on a table for anyone who's part of media to pick up. And of course, these are all PDFs online. You can find these on the Patriot League website, on individual teams' websites. So if you really wanted them, you could print them out yourself like I did for this weekend because I didn't go in the press box. Although realistically, I probably could have. It's not like they don't know me, but I wasn't working technically that day, so I didn't go in. So anyway, maybe cheating a little bit with this pile, but I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to go through this weekend's, but then I have a whole pile of stuff accumulated over the whole year, and I'm not going to go through every page of that because once you've seen it once, you know the basic format. And I'm even going to try to go quickly through here. I'm just giving you an idea of what these look like. And as I said, if you want to find game notes of any week of the Patriot League or any of the individual teams, it is very easy to find PDFs of online for you to download and then print if you want to. And also, there's only a handful of pages that are like the actual interesting part, at least in my opinion, because the rest of this, you can see how much is left, is all just like NCAA stats like this. And maybe interesting is not the right word because I know some people will find interest in that. I do find interest in stats to an extent. I'm just not super stat heavy myself. So to me, this is all just all right. I mean, that's good, but did they win? What was the final score? Did they win? So yeah, I mean, realistically, the only part of this that really has substance, in my opinion, is the first 12 pages because that's where you actually like read stuff. Getting ready for the game, all that, I don't know if you call it articles, but, you read the game notes. The actual game notes part of it was only the first 12 pages. And now the rest of this. I might actually skip some pages here because I can't get my fingers in between these pages enough to apparently get every single page. And yeah, you see like this, like individual game highs for different, stats, like, I mean, it's cool to have, I guess, but it's not really something that I would personally, go out of my way for if it wasn't already a part of this packet. So that was Patriot League for the week of December 6th. I mean, Lehigh's the only Patriot League team playing at that point. And we got Lehigh's game notes here. Once again, we're going to quickly go through it. Let's give you an idea of what it looks like, and then For everything else, I'm just gonna show you, show you stuff. And with this, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on too, you start noticing, once again, I printed this one up myself. Most of them are double-sided, but then there's a few pages in there that single-sided. The printer is really acting up. So it was struggling a lot with double pages. It wouldn't flip the page over, and it would just print the same thing on the same side of paper. So then I started doing single pages, which worked for a while, and then now it's, struggling even with the single pages. So we need to work on that printer. But then I needed to make this video. So, at least I can have this packet here completed. Unlike, you'll see in a minute, the Villanova one, which I'll do something kind of strange for you here. If I can flip this, there we go. So yeah, that's the Lehigh one. Villanova one, as you can see, it isn't stapled. It is very incomplete. There are 58 total pages to this. I have maybe 5, 6-ish, not 6, 7, 5 or 6-ish pages. So it worked for the cover page, and then page 2, the double-sided, worked just fine. And then here, page 3, it's a little bit off. You see the top is cut off. Page 4, it's not as bad, but still not perfect. And that's what I have for the first 4 pages. And these are actually the last few pages right here. You see it's still a little bit not centered. This is like the third to last page. This was the final 2 pages that actually did work double-sided. So I'll tell you what I'll do here. This is the PDF. My mouse is not plugged in. Hold on. This is the PDF. And we're just going to do this. And obviously, something else you notice, obviously everything I've shown is in black and white. That's just because that is how it is when you're in the press box at Lehigh. They print everything in black and white. So I just kept up with that. It's not a big deal to me to have it in color necessarily. So yeah, this is what I would have been flipping through if my printer, had worked. And this is 58 pages, so hopefully we can fix the printer in a way where I can at least do double-sided again too, because I'll do it if I have to, but this is 58 pages, so I'd rather cut that in half by doing a double side and making that whatever 58 divided by 2 is. So yeah, this is not normally obviously how I do things, but I needed to make this video, or want it. I guess it wasn't a necessity, but whenever I do a playoff video, I like to get it out as soon as possible. So I wanted to record this today, and yeah, so that's that. That's the Villanova game notes. All right, this is the record book. So what I normally do when I work someplace, I don't necessarily get every single thing like I do if I'm there as a fan. Like if I'm a fan, I pick up as much as I can. If I'm working an event, I try to just get, program related stuff like what I showed you. Like this is what I'd consider a program. So is this, and so would the away game notes be. They're kind of program-ish. But then also what they would have is the record book. I didn't pick up any of the away record books that they had on there because, they're just stats, they're good, obviously. As I mentioned before, I'm not super heavy into stats, so it is good to have, but it's not something that I would pick up normally if I was working there. However, I did make an exception for the Lehigh one, just for the fact that, I'm working directly with the team the whole year. It makes sense. Well, not the football team, but the broadcast team. And I'm in the press box all year. I'm doing all those games. So it just made sense to me to at least get Lehigh's record book. And there is one other exception, and I'll get into that in a minute, of another team, of a road team that I picked up the record book for. But for the most part, I passed on getting the road team's record books because it is just purely stats. But again, made an exception for one road team and also Lehigh, just because, every game I would walk into the press box, I would see the record book sitting there just like this. And, being that I do a lot of games for Lehigh, I work a lot of games for them in all sports. I just made an exception for myself to pick up the record book. It just made sense to me. If I can, there we go. And and by the way, if you were wondering, this is how they are all presented in the press box as well. They are just printed packets like this. I know I mentioned some of the stuff I printed myself, and while that's true, it's pretty much the same presentation as what you were going to get if you were in the press box picking this up yourself. So if you are someone that really wants to go out of your way and print this up, just like I did for some things, it is the same presentation, literally, because it's just a printed out packet, black and white, double-sided usually, except for this. Come on. Yeah. Some of the stuff toward the back I genuinely find interesting, like the Hall of Fame guys. Later, there will be like guys who got drafted into the NFL, and then, just guys who played in the NFL. Rich Owens is one of them, which I thought was neat. And year-by-year results, I do find that somewhat interesting as well. Hold on. I was just curious. I saw national championship game in Orlando up there. Whatever years that were. This is the page I was talking about, the NFL stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. So, anyway, that's the Lehigh record book. As I said, I didn't normally pick up the record books, but for Lehigh, I did make an exception just because I've done so many games for them. It was literally sitting there every single week. So, now here's the extras. I'm not going to flip through like I just did. I gave you the basic format. Once you've seen the format, that's what it is. Obviously, there are different, there's different articles. I don't even know if I call them articles, but there's different, notes, obviously, week to week, different stuff to read, so it's good. But then there's some segments like this, or not like that, actually, but like, whatever. There's, like academic success. Like, that is the same thing all year. Obviously, the stats will change, but, the format is, my point is the format is going to be the same every time. So, and as I said, if you really want to dive deep into any of these older ones, they're all PDFs online on the Patriot League website or the individual team's website. So you can find all that on your own pretty easily and obviously free. So here is the beginning of the year. This was week 2, September 6th. Patriot League football. Yeah. So there's that. Lehigh game 2 for their program. Sacred Heart. Should I flip through the road ones just because they might be a little bit different? Very quickly. So this is Sacred Heart's game notes from that weekend, as you can see. And already they didn't have much in terms of actual game notes because already we're into like the roster and the coaching staff, the individual season career highs, which this was week 2, so there wasn't much to talk about anyway. And yeah, they always go into, the official NCAA stats here. And yeah, that was Sacred Heart. Moving the pile back, we have week 5 here. They were playing Penn on this week. At this point, they were ranked 9th or 10th, depending on what poll. I think it was the Associated Press poll versus the coaches poll. And there's that. Here is the Lehigh's game notes. And really quick, and you already see the one exception right here that I was talking about in terms of road team record books. This is Penn's game notes for that week, for what I say, week 5. I thought this is really cool, the Franklin Field stuff. And then the roster, all their opponents throughout the year. The last time, I assume the last time they played Lehigh. and, the stats. And we're almost done here. Final page. All right, so here is the record book. They call it a fact book. This was my one exception because, like I said, every week, all year, it was always just printed packets. Which, if you really wanted, you could just print it up at home. This one was different. Obviously, as you can see, it's a really cool spiral binder for pen, and I thought this was an awesome souvenir to have. A nice little, I don't know, is that laminated you call it? I don't know. But here's kind of like the real cover of it, I guess. I can't even get my fingers under there. Yeah, so here's the fact book. Some of these are a few of them are the same pages as you just saw as the game notes. But, yeah, like I said, this is on par with, you go to some baseball teams have like media guides and stuff. I'd say this is pretty similar to that. It's not the same as, like the Lehigh record book that I showed you. That's what most of them are. They are just, pure, just a printed out packet of stats. This is what I'd call more in line with a media guide. And so this is really cool. As you can see, it talks about every player individually, what they've done in their football careers. And so this was, like I said, this was my one exception for a road team. I didn't really look inside of it until after I got home with it. I picked it up just because it's like, oh wow, that's a really cool, binder, basically. And by the way, even though it wouldn't be, this fancy looking, you can print this one up at home as well. I did find a PDF on Penn's website of this exact thing. So you can find this online and print it up yourself as well. It just won't be as cool looking as mine. And all of these, by the way, I should mention, I picked up at the end while I was leaving. So I wasn't taking it away from anyone who, is of more importance than I am. I know I'm skipping a couple pages here and there, but some of these are just annoying to get my fingers under. So, if, I never took any of these like right when I got there in case, someone who more important than me, needed one. These were always the leftovers at the end of the day that I don't know what they were going to do with anyway. I know, for the printed packets, they'd probably just throw them out. I don't know what they would do with these. This was actually the last one sitting there, so there wasn't any extra at the end of the day. This was the last one that I got. I don't know what they would have done with this. If it would also go in the trash, I don't know if you would throw away something this nice looking, but they might have. But anyway, they didn't need to because I picked up the last one. All-time letter winners. Still flipping through here. This is, I guess, versus every Ivy League team. All right, now we are over here again. This is week 10. They had a long road trip at this point. Now both parties agree, ranked number 7 at this point. This is November 1st against Georgetown. So that's the Patriot League. Here is Lehigh's. We're going to quickly go through Georgetown right here. And again, this is more on par with the other game notes. 4 things to know. Okay. All right, and here is the next week. This was the final home game for them in the regular season. This was week 11 against Holy Cross, Patriot League, Lehigh. And really quickly, the bottom of the pile here. Holy Cross, their game notes. for that week. I'm not sure if they got a win at all in the final 2 weeks of the season, but at this point they only had 1 win total. But at least I think it was also a Patriot League win. So anyway, that is it for this video, unless I can think of something else that I forgot. Oh, you know what? I never actually went over these. These are very quick. This is just my parking pass to get into the B lot, as they call it. As you can see, those are the... Oh, I'm zoomed out all the way, so it's tough. There we go. Here is all 6 home games and a little map. So, but it's still a walk because the stadium is like literally in the middle of nowhere. So there's a stadium. My little B lot is this little gravel lot that is right there. And I still have to walk across the field to get there. So it's still the best parking though. For when I went as a fan this weekend, here is the basketball arena parked in the furthest gravel lot possible. So this one with this little lanyard was not mine. This was picked up the first game that I did, this one against Sacred Heart. The guy doing game film for Sacred Heart just left this behind on the lift that we were at. I was in the end zone, and the guy just left it there. So it's like, okay, a little bit different version of what I have. Why not? He's not gonna pick it up. He's not coming back because this was at the end. He had already packed up and left it there. So. And this is actually mine, has my name on it without the space, which happens, whatever. Happens my whole life where people, don't put the space in the name. It's fine. But anyway, that is mine, as I said. So this one says media, has my name, ESPN Plus production crew for the 25 season. And yeah. So yeah, now I believe that is it. There's a lot of stuff to go over. As I said, if you want to look in depth at any of the packets that I didn't really go in depth in, they are all PDFs online. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.